If you're a landlord and wondering how much the market and regulatory environment of being in property can change, well, the answer is quite a lot, and 2024 is bringing more change still. But then if you've been a landlord for more than a month, then you'll know that change is part of the game and the business of being involved in property. This video is going to give you a glimpse into what's coming down the line, what's expected to be coming down the line in 2024, next year, or this year if you're watching more than 2 months after this video has been published, which means I'm talking to you from the past. Hello! Okay, let's jump straight in. Number 1, it looks like Section 21 notices are going. What is a Section 21 notice, I hear you are? Well, a Section 21 notice is known as a no-fault notice and is given to tenants when a landlord wants to evict them for no particular reason. Though there are restrictions in when you can actually serve a Section 21 notice, Section 21 notices and Section 8 notices are different. When you serve a Section 21 notice on your tenant, you don't have to give them a reason for evicting them. But if you're serving a Section 8 notice, there have to be grounds for eviction. In 2024, with the Renters Reform Bill coming into play, it is likely to be replaced by an extended Section 8, which will be expanded to incorporate more clauses, thereby protecting tenants further. This will lead to landlords being restricted in the number of reasons they can give before they evict a tenant, so that it can only be done under reasonable circumstances. And I don't know of any landlords who actually would try and evict a tenant without reasonable legal grounds for doing so. To ensure you're ready for this, make sure you keep a written record of all communications with your tenant. If you use an agent, make sure they are keeping good records of communications between themselves and your tenants. One of the things to do here is to ask them to show you what their trail of communications has been with your tenant over the last 12 months, for example, and then ensure that you are satisfied by the records they are keeping. Because ultimately, if you do decide to serve notice for eviction for whatever reason, then that trail of communications will be vitally important for you. This is also the case if your tenants fall into arrears and you think you might want to evict if your tenant fails to pay you rent. Alongside those written records, make sure you provide a comprehensive rent statement of arrears and payments to date. Number 2. There is likely to be a change in the way rent increases can be done in the future. So firstly, rent increases are likely to be limited to once per year. And secondly, you as a landlord would need to serve a particular form on your tenant in order to inform them about an increase to their rent. And thirdly, the notice period will be doubling as well. And so now, assuming you've met the first 2 criteria, you'll need to provide 2 months notice before you increase their rent. Number 3, the government is also saying they want to simplify the number of tenancy structures available. And so there is much talk about moving on to simple periodic tenancies. This means ASTs, or assured short hold tenancies, may be a thing of the past. Most standard tenancies these days are 6 or 12 months, but moving on to a single system of periodic tenancies will mean there isn't a specific end date to tenancy contract agreements in the future, and they will simply roll on month to month. The other change this will entail is that a tenant will be required to give 2 months notice before they want to leave. Number 4, and this one's about pets, and this one gets a lot of landlords very upset. The Reform Bill is proposing that landlords will need to provide reasonable justification if they are going to decline a request by tenants to have pets in their property. A landlord will only be able to reject this if there are reasonable grounds for doing so. One such reason could be if another tenant in the property or another resident in the property is going to suffer from ill health as a result of the pet being in the home, or a second reason could be if having a pet in the property breaches any existing lease covenants. Now I know, as a landlord myself, the primary concern about having pets in a property that you own is the cost of any damages caused by those pets whilst the tenant is residing in your property. Now, as the proposal currently stands, these risks can be allayed somewhat by requiring your tenant to provide written confirmation that they have acquired the relevant insurance for their pets, or that they will be willing to pay for any reasonable costs to cover any damage caused by their pets. Presumably, this will be both during and at the end of any tenancy. Number 5 is the digital property portal, which is being proposed where landlords can demonstrate their compliance with various legal and safety standards. One of the reasons this is being proposed is to raise standards in the sector, and whilst I'm sure all decent landlords will support this cause, I'm dubious about the effectiveness such a portal can have. And likewise, number 6, the government is proposing to introduce a private landlord's ombudsman, and the intention is that this will cover all private landlords. Now, whilst this might be a long-term gain, I'm not convinced they'll be able to introduce it in 2024. They might introduce plans for doing so, but I don't think the government is going to be able to introduce such an ombudsman in the next 12 months. Those are the main things I wanted to bring to your attention through this video, but there are a few other things I wanted you to be aware of that aren't included in the Renters Reform Bill as it was proposed earlier this year. And if you're going to be planning and making changes to your approach to property letting in 2024 as a result of the upcoming changes, it might be an opportune time to consider these other areas as well. Similar to the changes about not being able to refuse pets on reasonable grounds as we discussed earlier, there are likely to be changes in the future about not being able to refuse children in a property and not being able to refuse those on benefits, or what's known as the no DSS rule, which many landlords adopt. At the moment, it's a bit of a grey area, but the government is looking at bringing greater clarity to this area in the future. Another thing that is likely to be coming down the line in the very near future is the application of the Decent Home Standard, which currently only applies to the social housing sector. I mean, think about it. If your property is going to become a home for someone, then putting some minimum standards in place is only going to be a good thing. And I can't see any reasonable landlords ever wanting to fight that. The devil, of course, will be in the detail, but I expect it will be similar to how some selective licensing schemes operate in some areas of the country. Now, in terms of timing, I guess one of the questions you'll have is when are the changes we talked about at the very beginning of the video likely to come into effect in the UK? Well, at the moment, my best guess is going to be mid to late 2024, and that will be just the announcement of the legislation. I expect there to be a bedding period beyond that, which will range anything from 60 to 90 days or even more, depending on the specific things that are coming into play and how far away from compliance the government believes many landlords are. Okay, that should be you up to speed now with what's coming down the line for you as a private landlord in the near term. Get yourself ready, get yourself educated, and you'll come out the other side with a stronger property business, happier tenants, and peace of mind. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos on money stuff, and I'll see you on the next one.